Know your mind. Know yourself. Buddhism's first step. We spend so much of our lives studying the world around us. We learn how to build careers, how to navigate relationships, how to solve problems and achieve goals. We study languages, sciences, histories. We learn about distant galaxies and the depths of the ocean. And yet, there is one thing we rarely study. The one thing that shapes every single experience we have. The mind. Over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha opened his teaching with a simple but profound observation. The very first verse of the Dhammapada says, "Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought." Think about that for a moment. Every feeling you experience, every reaction that arises, every state of suffering or peace, it all begins with the mind. The mind comes first. The mind shapes everything that follows. Your anxiety, your joy, your confusion, your clarity, none of these exist independently. They are all wrought by mind, colored by mind, led by mind. And yet, how much time have you spent actually looking at this mind that creates so much? Most of us haven't. We live with our minds every moment of every day, but we've never really met them. We're like someone who has lived in a house for 50 years but has never opened one of the doors, the door that leads to the room where everything important happens. And so we live on the surface, body here, mind somewhere else. While sitting in a meeting, the mind is replaying an argument from last week. While having dinner with family, the mind is worrying about tomorrow. While lying in bed at night, the mind is everywhere except in that quiet room. We are physically present, but mentally, we are wandering through memories, anxieties, and fantasies. Anywhere but here. Anywhere but now. This might seem harmless, just the way the mind works. But there's a cost. When we don't see what's happening inside, we get controlled by things we don't understand. Someone can carry a fear of rejection for decades without knowing it. That fear doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "Hello, I'm your fear of rejection, and I'm going to make you act desperate in relationships." No. It just runs quietly in the background, shaping choices, creating patterns, and causing pain, all without being seen. A person might spend their whole life trying to prove themselves, working endlessly, never feeling satisfied, and they might never realize that underneath all that effort is a quiet belief. I'm not enough. They don't see it, but they live out its consequences every single day. This is what it means to be a stranger to yourself. Not that you don't know your preferences or your opinions, but that you don't see the deeper currents, the fears, the wounds, the assumptions that are actually running the show. So what can we do? The world offers endless solutions. Change your job, change your relationship, change your location, change your circumstances. And sometimes these changes help. But have you noticed? Even after the change, the same patterns often return. The same anxieties, the same reactions, the same quiet dissatisfaction. That's because the source isn't out there. It's in here. There's a door most of us have never opened. We've spent our whole lives in the outer rooms of the house, rearranging furniture, repainting walls, inviting new guests, while one door remains closed. The door that leads inward. The door to the mind itself. The Buddha's path begins with opening that door. Not with belief, not with philosophy, not with changing anything about your life. Just with looking. What is actually happening in this mind? What thoughts are running? What feelings are present? What patterns keep repeating without being seen? These are not questions to answer intellectually. They are invitations to observe, to turn the attention around, away from the endless objects of the world, and toward the one who is experiencing it all. This is the first step. Simple, but not easy. Because we've spent a lifetime looking outward. Looking inward feels unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. But it's where the journey begins. When you begin to look inward, even just a little, something becomes clear very quickly. Nothing stays. Watch your mind for even a few minutes and you'll see it. A thought appears. It seems important, urgent, demanding your attention. And then, it fades. Another thought replaces it. That one fades too. An emotion rises. Maybe irritation, maybe excitement, maybe boredom. It fills your awareness. And then, without you doing anything, it passes. Anger arises. You feel it in your chest, your face, your hands. It seems so solid, so real, so much like you. But wait a little while. It loosens, it shifts, it goes. Joy arises. Everything feels light and open. This is wonderful, you think. I want to keep this. But it doesn't ask your permission. It changes. It moves on. The mind is not a stone. It's a river. Always flowing. Always changing. Never quite the same from one moment to the next. This isn't a philosophy to believe in. It's something you can notice right now in your own experience. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and watch. See what arises. See what passes. You don't have to take anyone's word for it. And here's the thing. This isn't a problem. It's actually good news. If the mind were fixed, if your painful states were permanent, then there would be no way out. If the anxiety you feel were a solid, unchanging thing, you would be trapped in it forever. But it's not. It moves. It changes. It passes. No darkness lasts forever. No storm is permanent. This is not optimism. This is observation. Now, when we start to see this, there's a temptation. The temptation is to control. We think, okay, I see that anger arises and passes, so I should make it pass faster. I should push it away. I should replace it with calm. We think, I see that pleasant feelings come and go, so I should hold on to them. I should make them stay. But the Buddha suggested something different. In the Satipatthana Sutta, one of the most important teachings on meditation, he gave a surprising instruction. He said, when the mind has lust, one knows the mind has lust. When the mind is without lust, one knows the mind is without lust. When the mind has anger, one knows the mind has anger. When the mind is without anger, one knows the mind is without anger. Notice what's not there. There's no don't have lust. There's no you shouldn't feel anger. There's no instruction to push away, to fix, to change. The first step, and it really is the first step, is simply to know, to see clearly what's there. This is a completely different approach than most of us are used to. We're trained to manage our emotions, to control our reactions, to fix what's wrong. And there's a place for that. But before you can skillfully respond to anything, you first have to see it clearly. Think about the difference between these two experiences. In the first, anger arises and you become the anger. You are angry. The anger is you. It takes over. It speaks through your mouth. It makes decisions. Later you might say, I don't know what came over me. In the second, anger arises and you notice it. Ah, anger is here. You feel it in your body. You see how it wants to react. But there's a space now, a small gap between the anger and your response. You're not possessed by it. You're watching it. That gap is everything. In that gap, there's freedom. This leads to something important, something the Buddha pointed out in the Anguttara Nikaya. He said that the mind can be stained by greed, by hatred, by delusion. These things visit the mind. They color it. But, and this is crucial, they are not the mind itself. Think of it this way. Guests come to a house. They stay for a while. Some are pleasant, some are unpleasant. But the guests are not the house. They come and they go. The house remains. In the same way, anger visits, fear visits, jealousy visits. But they are visitors, not residents. They are not who you are. This is why practice is possible. If greed were your fundamental nature, if it were built into the structure of who you are, then how could you ever be free of it? But it's not. It's something that arises, stays for a while, and passes. It's a visitor. This changes everything. Instead of thinking, I am an angry person, you might notice, anger is visiting right now. Instead of thinking, I'll always be anxious, you might see, anxiety is here in this moment. This small shift in perspective opens up space. You don't have to fight your visitors, but you also don't have to invite them to move in. After you've been watching for a while, watching thoughts come and go, watching emotions rise and fall, something curious starts to happen. A question forms. Maybe not in words at first, more like a feeling of puzzlement. A sense that something you assumed was solid might not be. The question is this: if anger comes and goes, and I'm still here? If joy comes and goes, and I'm still here? If thoughts appear and disappear, and I'm still here? Then what exactly is this I? What is it that remains when everything else passes? This is not an abstract philosophical question. It's something that arises naturally when you observe your own experience carefully. You start to wonder, what am I really? What is this self that seems to be at the center of everything? The Buddha looked at this question very carefully, and what he found was interesting. He didn't find a single solid self sitting somewhere inside. What he found instead was a process, a combination of different aspects, all working together, moment by moment. He described 5 of these aspects. First, there's the body, the physical form, with all its sensations, heat and cold, tension and relaxation, pleasure and pain. Second, there's feeling, not emotion, but something simpler. The basic quality of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral that colors every experience. Third, there's perception, the way we recognize and label things. That's a tree. That's my mother's voice. This is boring. Fourth, there are mental formations, our reactions, habits, impulses, intentions, the way we reach toward what we want and push away what we don't want. And fifth, there's consciousness, the knowing quality itself, the fact that there is experience at all. These 5 aspects, body, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness, work together so seamlessly that we assume there's a single me behind it all. A director running the show, an owner who possesses these experiences. But here's the invitation. Look for yourself. When you search for that director, that owner, that fixed self behind all the changing experiences, what do you actually find? You find more experiences. You find thoughts about a self. You find a feeling of being someone. But can you find the self itself? Can you locate it? This is not meant to be a trick question, and it's not meant to lead you to some frightening conclusion. It's simply an invitation to look, to investigate, to see what's actually there. In the Anatalakkhana Sutta, the Buddha made a simple observation. He said, "If the body were truly me, then I could control it. I could say, 'Body, don't get old. Body, don't get sick. Body, don't feel pain.' But I can't. The body ages whether I want it to or not. It gets sick. It feels pain. The same is true for feelings. I can't simply decide to feel happy. I can't command, 'Never feel sadness again.' Feelings arise based on conditions, not because I order them to. The same is true for perceptions, for mental reactions, for consciousness itself. We don't have the control we assume we have. Now, this might sound unsettling. If I'm not in control, then what? If there's no solid self, then who am I? But notice, the Buddha didn't say there is no self as a belief to adopt. He said, look, observe, see for yourself what you find. And what many people discover, through careful observation over time, is this. The sense of a fixed, solid, separate self starts to become more transparent. Not because you've decided to believe something new, but because you've looked closely and seen what's actually happening. There's still experience. There's still the sense of being someone, but it's held more lightly. There's less to defend, less to protect, less to prove. Not because you forced yourself to let go of ego, that would just be another form of control, but because you've seen more clearly what was there all along. This is not something to rush toward. It's not something to believe or disbelieve. It's something to explore gently over time through your own observation. The question isn't, what should I believe about the self? The question is, when I look carefully at my experience, what do I actually find? So where does all this lead? If you start observing your mind, if you start questioning what you call self, what happens? Some people worry that this kind of practice leads somewhere cold, that if you look too closely at the mind, you'll become detached, unfeeling, disconnected from life. But the opposite seems to be true. The Buddha pointed to something he called complete liberation, the end of suffering. That's a big destination. It can sound distant, abstract, maybe even irrelevant to daily life. But here's what's often missed. Every step on this path is itself meaningful. You don't have to reach the final destination to benefit from the journey. When you notice a moment of anger arising, really notice it before it sweeps you away. Something shifts. You're a little less caught, a little more free. When you see a thought as a thought, rather than as absolute truth, you have more space. The thought might still be there, but it doesn't grip you as tightly. When you recognize that an emotion is visiting, rather than thinking it's who you are, there's room to breathe. These aren't small things. These are real changes in how you experience being alive. Less pushed around by reactions. More able to respond thoughtfully. A little more ease, even when things are difficult. And you don't have to wait years to taste this. It can happen today, right now. There's something else that often happens, something unexpected. As you learn to observe your own mind clearly, you start to understand other people differently. You realize, everyone has a mind like this. Everyone is dealing with thoughts that won't stop, emotions that feel overwhelming, a sense of self that they're trying to protect. Everyone is looking for happiness and trying to avoid pain. That difficult person at work, they have a mind that gets caught in fear and reacts defensively. That family member who frustrates you, they have a mind full of worries and desires they probably don't even see clearly. The stranger on the street, they're carrying their own hopes and wounds, just like you. This isn't a thought exercise. When you've spent time observing your own struggles, your own confusion, your own suffering, you recognize it in others, not as a concept, but as a direct seeing. Oh, they're just like me. And from that recognition, something naturally arises. Not forced compassion, not obligatory kindness, but a genuine understanding that we're all in this together. We're all trying to find our way. In the 𝐂𝐻𝐿ama Sutta, after guiding the villagers through a process of investigation and self-examination, the Buddha didn't stop there. He asked them to consider, does greed lead to harm or benefit? Does hatred? Does delusion? And they saw for themselves, these states lead to suffering. Then he guided them further, to spread loving kindness in all directions, to extend compassion to all beings, to share in the joy of others, to rest in equanimity. Knowing yourself, it turns out, opens naturally into caring for others. So where do you begin? You begin here, right where you are, with exactly what's happening right now. You don't need to believe anything new. You don't need to reject anything you currently believe. You don't need special equipment, special circumstances, or special abilities. Just pause. Notice where your mind is right now. Is it here, or has it wandered? What's present in your experience? A feeling, a thought, tension somewhere in your body. Don't judge what you find. Don't try to fix it. Just notice. This is how it begins, and this is how it continues. Not through dramatic transformations or peak experiences, but through small moments of awareness, again and again. There's a question you can carry with you. When I practice this way, when I observe rather than react, when I notice rather than get lost, does it lead to more suffering or less? More agitation or more peace? You don't need anyone else to answer this for you. You can find out directly, in your own life, through your own experience. The Buddha once said, "Be an island unto yourself. Be a refuge unto yourself." The path doesn't begin somewhere out there. It begins in here, in this moment, in this mind, in this life. Everything you need to take the first step is already present. The question is simply, are you willing to look?